Hey, this is Judah Mantel for SceneForge Studio, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can use SceneForge Server with Unreal Engine 5. Now, SceneForge Server acts as one of the most user-friendly live compositing systems on the market, allowing you to use either pre-recorded footage or live camera input for perfect green screen, chroma key compositing, as well as body tracking coming in a later release for the Unreal Engine software. So let's jump right into the way this works. I have an Unreal Engine 5 scene up and running. It's just the subway scene that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. I have a single camera in the scene, as you can see, like so. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is download the NDI SDK, because in this case, we're going to use NDI to get the footage from SceneForge into Unreal. You can do this at ndi.tv/SDK and download the Unreal Engine SDK. You're going to want to enter your email address, and they'll send you a link to that, as well as the documentation that I highly suggest reading over for a more advanced overview of the way this works. But once you have that downloaded, you can double-click the actual installer to open up the installer window. Now, it's going to install the plugin in a program files directory, but what you're going to want to do is actually copy the path to this and just take note of it. Then once that's installed, which I already have it installed, we're going to go to that folder and find the actual plugin. So to do that, you're going to go to the program files, NDI SDK for Unreal Engine, and go to the plugin builds folder. Now, you're going to want to find the folder corresponding to your Unreal version. I'm using 5.3, but this tutorial actually does apply to 4.0 versions as well. So once you open up that folder, you're going to see the NDI IO plugin folder. This is the folder that actually has all the files you need to make this work. Now, you can either install this in your project's plugins folder specifically, or in the plugins folder for your Unreal installation to allow all projects access to the plugin. In this case, I'm going to do it for all projects just because it's a little simpler for me. So you're going to open up the actual installation folder for your Unreal Engine version. You can do this by right-clicking on the actual shortcut and go to Open File Location, and then just go back a couple folders to the UE 5.0 or whatever version you're using. So then inside the Engine folder, you're going to want to find a Plugins folder. And all you have to do is simply copy the NDI IO folder into the plugins folder. Now, you're going to want to do this when Unreal is closed, just because you don't want to result in any conflicting files. And once you have that working in your project, you can go to Edit, Plugins, and search for NDI, and then you'll see the NDI IO plugin available. So all you have to do is just check this off to enable it. It's going to ask you to restart Unreal for it to become available. And once that's done, it's really easy to get started. All you have to do is go to the Create menu over here, and you'll see at the bottom there's a new section for NDI. So you're going to want to go to NDI Receive Actor, because we're going to be receiving footage from SceneForge, and just drag this in. And it'll drag in this quad in the 3D world. It's just a black quad here with the material on it. And if you're familiar with the Unity SDK, this will be pretty familiar. It's just a plane that's vertical that you're going to apply the footage to. And this is great because you don't have to worry about any materials or anything like that, because this just works with alpha transparency, which is great. Now, in order to make this work, you need an NDI media source. So when I select this in the details panel, you'll see over here, the media source is set to none. Now, this is essentially a file or an asset that has information about the resolution, frame rate, time codes, as well as the name of your NDI source. So in this case, I'm going to go to over here where it says none. I'm going to create a new media receiver. And I'm just going to put it in my content folder. And you'll see it creates one right here. So I can just double click this, and it'll open up the configuration menu for this NDI receiver. So you can see you can select the source name as well as a couple other options. In this case, for the most basic setup, we're just going to select the source name. But before we do that, we of course have to start the server. So I have SceneForge Server running over here. It has two layers right now. Of course, we want the transparent background, so I'm going to get rid of this bottom layer. So now we just have our input source here. I can adjust the key all I want. In this case, this looks pretty good. It's good for now. You're probably going to want to spend more time on it than I have. Then all you have to do is switch the output over here from spout to NDI. Make sure output alpha is checked off. and select a server name. In this case, SceneForge server works just pretty good. So I'm going to click Start Server. Now that's running in the background. So when I close this and I go to my connection source name, over here we can select my computer, and you'll see SceneForge server pops up. Of course, if you have other NDI sources on your network, you're going to want to set it up as you need for your production. So I'm going to select SceneForge server. You'll see it fills in all the proper information for me. And make sure to save this, and you can close this window. If you are familiar with other NDI options, these other settings may be applicable, but for now it works with just the default. Now all you have to do is simply press play as long as you have your media source configured. And after about a second, you'll see instantly it adds the footage to your scene. So if I simply press the play button, you'll see that if I switch back to Unreal, we have our footage moving. Now in this case, the light wrap isn't so accurate, so let's just go over here and adjust the distance, turn that off for now. And you can see we have it working. Now you may want to scale your plane up so it actually matches the scale of your scene, but you can see it works really easily. And of course, if you want to spend more time on it, you can adjust everything from your lighting to everything like that. Now when you select the object, at the top of the details panel, you can select the video mesh component over here, and this is the actual 3D mesh that the footage is being projected on. So you can see over here we have an element in the materials section, and this uses a material that's included with the NDI SDK, and it's an unlit material. But keep in mind, if you want to replace this with a different shader that is lit, does respond to lighting, and so on, you can do so as well. So you can play around with these settings to match your configuration to the best of what you need. And so that is the way you set this up. It's pretty simple. It took me only a couple minutes to get this working, but I do recommend checking out the actual PDF documentation for more advanced usage. Now when it comes to body tracking, that is available in the Unity SDK because it is all in one, but for Unreal Engine, I plan on having a plugin made available shortly. But if you want to take a look at the Unity SDK and convert the C# into blueprints, it'll be pretty easy to do that as well using the NDI metadata, which is stored in a JSON format. So if you're a more advanced user, I recommend taking a look at the Unity SDK to translate that to blueprints. And so with that, if you have any questions, you can leave a comment down below or email me directly at judah@sceneforge.app, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.